Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is the lovely Jennifer Kenney-Smith. She's a transformational leader and holistic healer with over 26 years of executive sales leadership in the information technology sector. She's also the founder of JKS Yoga and Coaching. And her mission is to help individuals and leaders align their lives with their core values and achieve profound personal transformation. What's not to love about that? This is your a brief introduction to Jennifer. There's a lot more to her. It will be at the end of this interview, the entire, in the podcast notes too, the entire bio. So, what's not to love about your mission and everything that you have been doing? I know we talked off record a bit, actually, a lot more than I expected about the topics of healing and spirituality.
Yeah.
But the question that I love asking everyone, Jennifer, from the get go, after my brief introduction, is how would you introduce yourself? Who is Jennifer in this very moment?
A leader, a guide, a example, and a fighter, a warrior, and a woman that's just here to be available for all of it.
Uh,
And that those identities, those labels feel pure today, um, because I am here to lead in a way of like an army of light workers. I want people to wake up and to allow and to receive and to be in the frequency of love and connection and contribution.
yeah.
And I think we need somebody to lead that way. And I'm ready. I'm available for that role.
Yes. Wow. Huh. It felt for a moment like a guided meditation.
Yeah, I felt that. Yeah.
This is something that I have been engaging with for so long now, healing, spirituality, dancing between the two, and transformation as well. So, a question that came to mind for you too, as one of my first questions, is transformation the goal of healing from your perspective? And if it is, what does it look like? What would that look like in a day to day living basis?
Yeah. So I think the word transformation is the word that the world understands. There's a goal to
Yeah.
become something. I think it's actually an unbecoming. So we learn to embrace all of it, the whole journey, and stop being defined by any of it, but allowing the pieces and the parts that hurt us the most to become those opportunities for the healing, the growth, the expansion, the awareness, the forgiveness, the way that our soul's been pierced for us to connect, to have that frequency of love. But it's not so much the transforming, it's the unbecoming. Truly, that would be the win. For me, it's forgetting who we thought we needed to be, because we're already exactly who we are. So when we stop trying to be something external, which was what I spent I mean, I'm not that old. I feel like I say my whole life, but the 49 years I've been here, I've been trying to become something that was very external. And it was a big battle of, me versus me and all the things people tell us we should be striving for. And today I just keep thinking of, dropping one more pedal away. That's no longer me, and that's no longer serving me. And I don't resonate with that. And that isn't me either. And inside of all of those protected layers is love for
Mm.
me, for my family, for the people that surround me, the people that I've never met, the way that we get to have this experience, all of it, all at once too. So I think transformation is a little bit of an illusion. I use the language because people can understand it because we're taught. And it's inspiring when we think of like the butterfly effect, or the rising of the phoenix, right, or the lotus flower. But the reality is they were all needing to become something for their growth, and we already got everything we need. We just forgot. So it's really the great remembering. It's the unbecoming and remembering. That's the truth of the transformation.
Yes, a billion times to that truth. Yes. Yeah, that resonates to with everything I know to be true from my
Yeah.
own experience and the spiritual knowledge I have. Yes. And some people, including my husband, they think that this is sort of abstract every time I talk to people around me. How do you accept or embrace you as already wholeness,
Hmm.
that you are already what you're looking for? How do we, it feels very abstract to
Yeah.
them, to some people. So, how would you somehow make that more concrete for them? Can we do that for them, or they are the only ones that can help themselves?
Yeah, it's an amazing question. And I have read all the books and I did all the podcasts and I did all the master classes and all the training with the top, the elite, the from spiritual, from
Mm,
metaphysical, from all of it, from ancient wisdom. And what I'll tell you is, although the trainings and the stories have been impactful and profound and helpful, I still had to do all the work. So people listening, it's still the work, but it's the journey of the work. So it doesn't have to be, hard. It's definitely challenging at times, but
yeah.
we're led to believe like this microwave society and the Amazon Prime that ships everything within seconds. You get the order. Everything's fast. It's quantum leaping, and healing doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't. We can't spiritually bypass the soul and the spirit expanding and ascending. So it looks like to me becoming radically truthful of what is not working in your life, and then allowing some reflection and opportunity to decide, what do you want to do different?
Mm,
And then where is the guide, the teacher? It's not the book. I really encourage mentorship and a teacher or a coach even that aligns to your values, that doesn't necessarily have had to do the same thing, but something similar that they can say, I see you, I appreciate where you're at, and I can teach you the steps. And then be open to a whole bunch of, I'd say, Eastern modalities and ancient modalities. It's not necessarily some of this new stuff. To be open to try the things. What didn't work for me was wine
mm.
and
Haha.
complaining and ignoring. I mean, a lot of times I just kept so busy numbing the pain, and that didn't work. It only worked for so long, and then I realized it's the definition of insanity, expecting
Mm,
different results and not actually doing the work. And what the work is a deep discovery of you. It's a deep devotion and honoring of this incredible body, mind, heart, soul that is yours, that is like nobody else's, that has its own specific frequency. You are so unique, 1 in 400 trillion of a chance that your mother's egg and father's sperm came together to create you. And so, could we just look at this journey as a gift, as an
mm,
opportunity, not that you don't have to marathon it. You don't have to race it. Well, I guess marathon it rather than sprint. So long in the gorgeousness of all of the unveiling, all of the awareness, all of the healing, all of the accepting. And this is when we come back into what the acceptance is. I am worthy. My
mm,
shift was in understanding and owning the inherent worth. It was a great reclamation. I had to really reclaim it because I felt like it had been, stripped from me at times. So how do we acknowledge the pain, the suffering, and then wake up and go, well, wait, I'm playing a part in all of this suffering. It's not still happening. It's what happened in the past. It's not still, but there's a memory. There's a frequency in the body of the pain.
right.
So reclaiming my worth. I'm worthy of love and acceptance and profound expansiveness. And there is no denying it unless we're doing it to ourselves. So the work, the expansiveness, that awakening is
Mm,
something each person does need to go on their own journey. And my hope is that they do, because that's when we get to the bliss. That's when there's the joy always. I mean, it may not be 24/7, but The way we stop searching for the thing that's going to make us happy or the person that's going to, rescue us. Instead, it's like, no, I just want to sit and sip on some hot water and watch the
Mm.
sunset and hear my kids laughing, and nothing else matters. It all just fades to dark, fades to the back.
Yes. How would you describe what codependency is from your lens, of course, from the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So people listening may understand codependency as a person that's addicted to a substance.
Ah,
We hear it around alcohol, we hear it around drugs. A little bit more accepted, socially accepted would be work, a workaholic. Um, what I learned is when I started going to therapy after a really awful divorce and really challenging marriage, I was married 13 years with him, 16.
mm,
My father's an alcoholic, and my ex husband showed very much signs and symptoms of this behavior. What I learned being raised in that environment is a codependency. And some of the ways it has manifested in my life is, and the people listening will identify with some of these, I'm sure, people pleasing, putting everybody else first. You come in last because you're caring for
mm,
the addict in the family,
yeah.
but even further, that you're making sure that their emotions are managed so that there's not an outburst in the house. So it sounds like walking on eggshells. So you're managing the emotions of the household, which that happened in my childhood and in my marriage. So when I started therapy, when I left my ex-husband, and she said, "Well, you're codependent." And I'm like, "I'm not an addict." And I only understood it to substance. But I was absolutely codependent on people. And that also emerged into love addiction. So relationships with men that were avoidant attachment styles, and mine was addictive. And it looks like a number eight, and they ping pong off each other. So as soon as I'd be done with the behavior of the man in my life, and then he would come chasing me back, and then I'd be so
Mm,
overjoyed he chose me, and then I would smother him, and then he would run, and then you're repeating this pattern. And those addictive personality traits, and love especially, draw to each other. It's an energetic, because what happens spiritually is we want to play them out and then graduate. We want to be done with the lessons so we can say, wait, my worth isn't in that partner. My worth is in me. And if they're not treating me the way I deserve to be treated based on the values and inherent worth I have, then we don't tolerate that kind of behavior. Like we have to teach people how to treat us.
mm,
And if
yeah.
we don't have any value or
Yeah.
self-worth, we will put up with anything. And there's books on the codependency, and they'll say things like you settle for breadcrumbs. Like your lover will give you the littlest dose of love or attention, and you're like, yes, I'm still in it. They're not leaving me. These wounds come from core abandonment, emotional, physical, mental. And so I played that for a really long time. After I healed my love addiction, it then manifested into alcohol. Late in life, I no longer drink, but I was using and numbing my pain with alcohol because it's readily available, and it looked like a glass or four of wine. And then I realized, well, I'm not finding relief anymore. I'm just outsourcing my pain. Let's get to the core. And then we started doing the spiritual work.
Wow. Yeah, listening to you, it just sounds familiar, I have to say. Yeah, I have done exactly the same thing. And I have to say that I still do it. Seems like my relationship with my husband is still somewhat there. But because my spiritual practice is so profound, for some reason I just let it play out. It's interesting. It's almost like a form of a detachment, but it's
Yeah.
not really a detachment. It's that I'm watching what the body mind is doing. And I feel compassion for this that went through so much and it's still going through something here. But it's not, there's no suffering anymore, no pain. So that's why I'm not doing anything, engaging in therapy and
Yeah.
all that. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah. And maybe it's not quite detachment. Maybe it's just non-reactivity.
Yeah.
You're not attached to the outcome, so you don't have to react. And then there's no more suffering there. Then there's not the old pattern, right? So I think it's
Yeah.
good.
I was just wondering if, some of us are not meant to be in perfect situations anyway, because this is not our last destination. Not that there is one, but let's say the peaceful destination that we are looking for, that place is not really in the physical world. So I never been really comfortable with this in this reality in any way. I'm always uncomfortable somehow, the body mind, the body especially. But I wonder if that's part of that dance too. Some of us are meant to awaken here in this lifetime, so we don't really get to have everything perfect or believe that this is real and permanent.
From the lens of when I see suffering and some of the stories I hear through clients or prospects, it is the unthinkable that has occurred in their life, the unconscionable, like how could this even have happened to a child? It's through that lens when I wonder how much can somebody endure and why is it so painful? For what part of their awareness, their awakening, their ascension? I do believe every opportunity is for us to wake up. Is it in this lifetime? We don't know. And how many could be hundreds of lifetimes till we wake up. I've been learning about the idea and opportunity for that ascension to then be when we get to the place of acceptance, awareness, and deep connection, communing together, then the possibility of the next experience could be as angelic, as a spirit guide, to be then assigned to the people on this planet to guide them. And I'm kind of overjoyed about that. I'm like, as soon as I drop into the pain, third dimension reality, and I'm like, this is hard. I'm like, wait. If I get this lesson, my next assignment may be spirit guide. And I'm just enamored with that idea of the good work, of doing good work, of being kind and mindful and loving, and just not getting caught up in the suffering. And they're all expansive, right? So it's definitely not 24/7. I definitely have hard days or sad moments, but then I can bring myself back in with the hope that I can ascend to do more. And on this planet, while I'm here, to help as many people as I can. And hopefully that's going to be a part of everybody's expansive healing.
Yes, I guess I'm alluring to something else. Like in a case of we're already free, we talked that about earlier, that we're already what we are looking for. So once we realize that, it's not something that's out there, it's already here. So once we get to realize that truth,
Yeah.
will that change anything in a sense of our physical reality? Our bodies won't change.
Right. Well, so I think when life physically challenges us, because this world, the earth, is one of the hardest journeys from the soul into the body, because we can get sick. We can suffer. So there's disorder, mental, emotional, and physical, and spiritual. And even if someone's on a spiritual journey and things are going well, they're happy, they're in joy, they're peaceful. But then if a disorder, disease, and a diagnosis shows up, I know from that place of old wound, fear starts to manifest and expand. And if we don't have a spiritual connection to a power that is greater than us to help us with the knowing that we can heal ourselves, I think we can go on these. It doesn't necessarily this ascension path isn't quite straight,
Right.
Right. So it might be these steps might be a little sideways. I've definitely gone backwards. I was on a big spiritual trajectory 20 years ago, and it was so great. But then I got really lost in the patterns of pain with my husband at the time. And I was kind of like asleep. The best way to describe it, just not awake until it got so bad. And we clashed so hard that then I decided this isn't my story anymore. I will not live this way anymore. And then I start to ascend and do the work. So that was more emotional and mental pain. But I know friends that have had cancer, and similarly, there's a pause. Unless you've done a lot of spiritual work or you have really solid foundations and you're not questioning that spiritual path, like God betrayed me or this happened to me and why did God do this to me? That's not going to get us to the deep healing. I'm not saying don't express, like be honest with how you feel and express how you feel, But when we think we've been abandoned by a spiritual father, mother, then there's more suffering there. And that comes physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual.
Right. You mentioned, earlier, two words, soul and spirit. Is there a difference? Do you see these two aspects of being two different things?
Yes, I do. I see the physical, the body, the meat body, the bones, the ligaments and stuff. I see the soul is our soul that takes up space, renting the body here on this planet. Soul gets to come to leave after the death of the body. Spirit, I believe, is within more of the spirituality realm of source, God, Jesus Christ consciousness, how you receive and interplay with that energy, that entity, that force of love, the way that we can spiritually connect to each other. So I see them as two separate, but ethereal and ascended versus the physical that is dense on this earth, very structured, the physical pain and the part of the human experience.
Right. Have you contemplated the idea of true freedom, and what would that be, to be completely free
Mm.
from reincarnating and all these things, or embodying again?
Yeah, I feel like what I understand, this goes to Dolores Cannon's philosophies, is we have a soul contract. And I don't 100% know, and I don't know until I leave this earth. I haven't like channeled it myself and been affirmed
Yeah.
that, but what I've learned and understand and what makes sense to me to explain these life lessons is we sat with God, wrote the contract on the plan of ascension or impact or light work. I don't think we come here to do harm. I
Hmm.
don't really think I don't think a soul, I think there is a light and darkness on this planet, but I don't think we as a soul come to this planet to do harm. I think life happens and we have free will and we make choices with what's happened to us, and therefore we might do harm consciously or unconsciously. But I believe as we incarnate into the physical body, we are here with a purpose that we have forgotten.
Yeah.
And as we fumble through the maze and we get knocked down and knocked down and knocked down, we keep getting up. We start to either turn on the memory or the gifts or the frequency of knowing. I would cry out when I was really little to God and had this spiritual connection. And when people will say something to compliment my work, I know the gifts that I have that have been dormant because I worked a
Mm.
corporate job and I just was in so much of my own suffering. But once I moved away from that and stepped into the authority and the assignment I've been given, I know. Once we know, we know. It's the dharma. It's more than the purpose. It's the entire work that we're here to do,
Yes.
which isn't just for me to be a coach or a yoga teacher. It's to light up the frequency of this planet and to raise the level of consciousness. So no human has to suffer unless they choose, but to turn it on and to love and accept and stop the judgment. When you first said to have true freedom, I thought, gosh, what a world, not so much the spiritual and the reincarnated space, but just here on this world in this moment.
Yeah.
Freedom for me would just be no judgment of myself, of others, of just to not have to have that pressure and discouragement and disappointment and disdain, that self-betrayal, that self-hate. Like to be
Hmm.
free of that, I think could be step one or step 100, however we can get there. But that would feel very freeing to me.
Yeah. So Ayurveda. So talk to me about, how do you use Ayurveda, which is a system, to to decrease inflammation in the body, which we know, some of us do know, that's very important, right? That's the foundation or the cause of so many diseases.
Yes.
So that's one. But the first question is a basic one. What is Ayurveda, for those who don't know what that is?
Yeah. So there's yoga, and a lot of people in this side of the planet know about the physical form of yoga, the asanas, the postures.
Yeah.
There's a medicinal side to yoga, so a 5,000-year-old medical system from India that the Sanskrit word, Sanskrit is the language of yoga and Ayurveda, translates to the knowledge of life. So we're using the wisdom of life, and what the agenda, the initiation of our Ayurveda was to prevent disease.
Yeah.
And today we call a lot of things disease. I like to call it disorder, because before, disease may manifest a lot of symptoms, but the disorder, the dysregulation, there's all of the symptoms, but there's roots to it. Where did it originally stem from? The way that I look at inflammation from an Ayurvedic perspective of really assessing the imbalances in the body, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic. These traumas that we have through life, whether they're macro traumas, the big stuff, or the little ones, little tiny assaults to the soul, I call it, the heartbreak, the lie, the betrayal, the way life has been brutal yet beautiful. When we haven't managed to deal with the emotions, the pain, the suffering, the grief, the anger, resentment. There's so many levels of emotion. And I know when you mentioned fear, these really low, deep ones, the apathy, the shame. Shame's one of my least favorite, right? When we haven't been taught to address these emotions. And, there's a lot of reasons why boys don't cry or go to your room or don't talk back, or kids are to be seen, not heard. I mean, there's so many ways we were raised to just hush. If you cry, I'll give you something to cry about, right? So we sucked it up. Well, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score that explains this really well. And there's another one, The Mind Body Prescription, Dr. John Sarno, that we keep the pain. And it seems to be dormant, but it's not. And what it actually looks like is the adult-sized tantrums that we throw all day long, and we act like we're fine. Everything's fine, but we're yelling at our kids. We're short-tempered. We're eating our feelings. We're eating anything to numb and continue to suppress. Well, it has to go somewhere. So where does it go? It manifests in these diseases because the body gets inflamed. So inflammation is a telltale sign that there's something dysregulated or out of disorder. Right. From Chinese medicine, we talk about the meridians and the energy of emotion that is assigned to each organ. So I had a client I was working with who showed up with lung cancer and kidney cancer. And as I'm onboarding him, intaking him, he's a sweet man, and he was so kind that I could hardly imagine anger and rage in his body or grief. So the lungs hold grief, and the kidneys hold anger and rage. And as I'm asking him, so I need the truth. Would you consider parts of your life to be in rage? And he said, yes. And I was like, wait, thank God he's honest. And then what about the grief? Yes. So we worked through eradicating pain, emotional, all the way back to childhood. I don't do therapy. I think therapy is great if it's working. If it's not, and your body's showing these disorders, or emotionally you're just really not able to manage your emotions, your emotional IQ is pretty poor, then we go in, we do some quick. It's almost like we're pulling out the weeds. We're just plucking them out because it's one big entangled emotional mess that as we loosen it up, they start to unravel, and there's more space. And the spaciousness helps heal the inflammation. So Ayurveda is the way to know that there's imbalances in the body. How can we heal and recover and restore? And another piece of it is we just understand the simplicity of being with circadian rhythm. We want to go to bed when the sun's going down, and that's like 9 o'clock. It's not 11. When we go to bed after 10 p.m., we're stealing tomorrow's energy.
Oh, gosh.
When we eat after 6 p.m., we can't actually rest and digest. Our body naturally detoxes every night, but if we've got a lot of food because we ate our feelings, the body can't do its detoxification. So you wake up with this unprocessed food, as bad as unprocessed emotions. It's called ama. Ama is what causes the inflammation. So I work with this ancient wisdom to heal the body. And a lot of that isn't really just physical. We heal these emotions and these pain bodies. The body starts to drop the weight. The whole entire organ system starts to do its detoxification. Vitality comes back to life. You're taking in then the prana we get from yoga and the movement practice. It can move through the whole body, the subtle body, the energy body, and the physical. So healing happens pretty quick because we're now connecting. I love when we talked earlier, the mind, body, soul intertwined with this deep devotion and discovery of the worthiness of the healing.
Yes. One thing that's interesting that you mentioned, of course, and I'm familiar with, is the cycles of life, of the day, night, and all that. And gosh, it makes so much sense, the reading and listening from you, but it's something that for some reason I'm not able to do it. I'm a night person, so I'm always awake, and like I'd say the body. Speaking of the body, it doesn't, it can't fall asleep before 12:30 or 1. And I have tried my entire life. Since I was very little, that was always the case. It might have come from, yeah, my childhood and not being able to sleep at night. I have a lot of problems there. So being vigilant. So I was always, as a
Yeah.
child, looking at the door so nobody would come in. So I'm wondering if that makes a difference. We are talking, going back to the conversation of spirituality and going deeper into it and knowing what we are beyond who we are. So does it make sense to you somehow that this, yeah, this awareness of what I am has kind of taken care of the body in a way? Because I don't feel anything that's might be going wrong. Well, I have to do some exams to make sure.
Yeah. Well, or you don't. I mean, I think it's when the body shows up with a message and you hear it. It's mine used to be,
Mm,
I feel like shit. Like I physically felt awful. I was inflamed, which is why I started the Ayurvedic journey to figure out what was really happening in my body. I
right.
was drinking too much wine. I was eating too late. I was not addressing my emotions. I wasn't doing the active in real time healing. Um, I I know from a physical standpoint, the organs do everything. The brain really wants to sleep. The biggest benefit, the biggest organ that benefits from sleep is the brain. A couple ways when I hear people have the night owl, staying up late. One, it could be the addiction to electronics and the doing, the human doing rather than the
Mm,
human being. I have to turn my phone away. I have to put it away. I can't. If you send me a message, I will be on there and we will be texting till late in the morning, especially on social media. Like I just can't. I can't trust myself. I like the hype. I love the adrenaline until it burned me out. So if you're waking up not feeling exhausted, I think you're okay.
mm,
It's those who are showing up saying, "I'm having 3 cups of coffee," or I can't wake up without the coffee," or "I'm waking up in my monitor showing that I'm in high cortisol." We know the body's not restoring. So the goal is restore, rest, so the body can do all of those organs inside can do what miraculously is automatically happening. This deep cleansing and purification. When we wake in the morning from Ayurveda, we scrape our tongues and you'll see this expression of what is the ama, and you'll see what color it is, how much is on there, and there's a map of the tongue to the organs. So you'll
yes.
know, like you can't cheat the body. The body will tell you. What we've done though is when the symptom comes up or the body says, "I'm exhausted, I just need more space," we say, "Cup of coffee." We override the feedback loop from the body. But if we were driving a car and it said, "Check your engine light," we would check the engine and go pay somebody to fix what is wrong. But
Right.
all day long, the body's providing info and information, and we're going, "I don't have time." For example, how many women do we know that will be online doing their Zoom meetings and then say, "Oh, I haven't peed for 3 hours." What in the world would you want to keep that in your body? Like your body wants to release and eliminate, detoxify.
Mm, yep.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're not feeling symptoms or levels of tiredness or brain fog, I think you're okay. And I think it's because we can ascend beyond the physical. And then we'll be so intuitive to know.
Right.
I have a friend who does self-massage every day. So it's been another Ayurvedic habit. So we infuse love into the body through the oil, through the massage. And one day underneath her armpit, there was a lump. And she went to
Wow.
the doctor to get it checked. And they said, "How long has it been here?" And she said, "It showed up today," or however many days for the meeting, the appointment. And they said, "Well, how would you know?" And she said, "I know my body. I am on physically, emotionally, energetically connected to my body." This is when we want to really awaken that invitation of self-love, of devotion, of self-care. And
Mm.
it's through these ancient rituals and the worthiness to just take the time to be in commune with your body. So if something comes up, you'll know, oh, this is new. Thank you for showing me. I will get this checked.
Mm. Yes. So going back to what you do again, we're almost at the end. Gosh, the approach you have been saying that you have been disclosing that information here about the blend, the integration of ancient wisdom and modern neuroplasticity. You mentioned NLP, neuro linguistic programming. So
Yeah.
I have heard this before. I don't interview too many people about it anymore, but I do have a friend in California that she has done it herself. She's a coach too, and she has because she had a lot of traumatic experience, and then she did that and it worked. So talk to me for a moment about that. You know, neuroplasticity has to do with the capacity of change, right? How the
Yeah.
brain's plastic, it can
Yeah.
always rewire and
Yes.
become something else.
Yep.
But NLP, I would love to hear a bit more about it.
Yeah. So what we want to do is understand there's stories that we've learned about ourselves and the stories that we continue to tell ourselves about
Right.
what happened. And the reality is if it was when we were children, and I'm not here to dishonor anyone's story. I love hearing your stories. If you want to send me your story, I will read your story. But the reality is that our brains were a different size then. Our whole body has completely changed. We've evolved. We've grown. We may not know exactly if that's the same story. So
Right.
we could just honor
Mm.
what happened and then create a new story, not to dishonor it, but to create room for greater expansion. Because if we're still living in pain and suffering, we are only going to get more pain and suffering. So what happens with the brain is it has memorized the story, the lack, the limitation, the fear, the pain, all of the things, and we physically show up in that story memory. You
Right.
probably tell the same story. And I remember when I would tell somebody one of my more traumatic stories, and there was an addictive receiving of their expression. They'd hear it and go, "Wow, oh my gosh, I can't believe." And then I'm like, inside, my body's celebrating. I'm being witnessed. I'm being validated. I'm being seen.
Right.
But it's still pain. So what we want to talk about is how to reprogram these old stories. If they're causing you lack, if they're causing havoc in your relationships, if you feel unworthy, and you don't know that until you do the core work of what's really holding you back, these limiting beliefs. So what we get to do is if you stop telling the story, the brain will stop lighting up in pain, in trauma mode, and you can create that new story to create a new brain pattern. So the first way to do it is to, one, if you can stop saying it or interrupt the pattern. So a client will be telling me a story and they're getting their emotions caught up in it and they're waiting for me to witness the pain. But if with permission, I'm going to interrupt the pattern. So we're going to say something a little bit abrupt or maybe a little loud, or even you could laugh. I don't encourage that, but because we want to be validated, but sometimes we just need something to interrupt the repetition. There's a woman named Iyanla Vanzant who wrote a book called Peace from Broken Pieces. I saw her interviewed on Oprah. She was Oprah's spiritual coach at some point, and she talks about this storytelling. And she said it's as bad to our energy system as shooting heroin because it's so addicting in how we're receiving that feedback from the person that's seeing us.
Yes.
So, what is it costing you to live in the story of the past? And would you be interested in reprogramming it? And then having more peace, having less inflammation, having more joy. So it's that great reclamation I talked about. We have to change. We have to forget that we're a part of the program and step into something softer, maybe it's something bigger,
Mm,
more powerful, maybe it's a little bit more lighter. It just really depends on how you want to language it. But that's what NLP will do, is interrupt the old program, and then we create a new one and we do it together, and people can stop smoking, people stop. I mean, with me for love addiction, it was incredibly addictive and really hard to break. When you're addicted to a human, it's chemically intoxicating.
mm,
Um, to break that pattern took NLP for me to actually create new patterns, like no contact on the phone. You're blocked from everything. You cannot get that high off the phone pinging on the text message. So there's ways to start doing these pattern interruptions. Exercise, workout, changing your walk path. There's lots of really simple ways to do it without a coach, but a coach would really definitely help with that too.
right. Yeah. So before we say goodbye for today, I do want to mention something else that was really, it was fun in a way. There's misconceptions about yoga. I know that was one of the topics. So for me, it was what kind of kept me away from yoga. It was the physical thing. It seemed like it was about women competing with one another, who looked better, who was stronger, who was more, all that. And that really didn't really resonate, and I couldn't really engage with it. So talk to me about yoga in the West, and how is it changing?
Yeah, good question. I think the only one that I've ever seen that's competitive, legit, that has like you go on a stage to compete is Bikram. And that also had like the perfect pose. I've taken Bikram. I didn't actually like it. It was too hot for me. And I didn't like, your aim was the peak perfect pose.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Yoga was created, at least the yoga I follow, Ashtanga, Patanjali, Joyce. It was taught to young Indian boys. And the reality is their hips look very different than mine. And some of the poses I'll never get into. And I just want to ask
Right, right.
permission to never have to be that tiny. I'm not 90 pounds.
Yes.
But I did go to yoga. I went to yoga to heal my panic attacks. I was emotionally dysregulated. My therapist encouraged it. And I was wanting to be good. I wanted to be a good yogi, a good athlete, because I was still very much into this external appearance and validation. Yoga did crack me wide open. It helped me find myself for the first time. I was in my 30s and completely devoid of self relationship and even a healthy relationship with God. So I was able to foster that and heal that on the yoga mat. Um, and there's a lot of different yoga that isn't physical. So even if someone's thinking, well, it feels a little intimidating to go do all those moves, there's meditation yoga, there's Raja yoga, there's mantras, there's Kundalini. I'd say try. And when I did my first yoga teacher training, we had to try a couple different ones as part of the education. But from a healing, emotional and mental stability, I no longer have depression. I no longer have anxiety. I no longer have panic attacks. I healed that
Mm.
codependency because I found the relationship with me. I also ended, I was supposed to have a three vertebra fusion of my spine. It would have been my third spine surgery. I didn't have to get it because of yoga, the physical practice. Also healing the inflammation from Ayurveda, but without yoga, I don't know where I'd be physically.
Mm.
So it's been an incredible blessing to me, and I think everyone should do yoga. But it just practice a couple different, and also find your favorite teacher. There's so many teachers out there. There's wonderful teachers. There's some that are, more structured. Some are more connected and emotional. It's like pizza. You got to go find your favorite pizza. It takes a couple tries, right? And then you find your favorite yoga and yoga teacher.
Mm. There's no one kind of yoga. That's one. And yoga means union, right, Jennifer? So union of all the aspects of being, which is not just physical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love the concepts of karma yoga, bhakti yoga.
Yeah.
That's in combination of, well, my system of knowledge, which is Advaita Vedanta. It's not really the yoga path, but it kind of merged with those two. I would say karma yoga and bhakti yoga.
Yeah.
That's what I practice, which includes meditation.
Yeah.
So I love that part of it too.
And you dance too. Do you dance at Bhakti?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my, yes, yes, yeah, yes, yes. That to me, it's enough for now. But who knows? Maybe I will explore Kundalini. And I have read and interviewed so many people here. but I'm not called for that yet.
Yeah.
So I love what he said. Just see, try and see what resonates with you,
Yeah.
right? That's so thank you again. And before we say goodbye, I want to mention your services. So yoga classes, those monthly unlimited virtual live and on-demand classes, corporate workshops, individual one-on-one coaching, and masterclass. Did I miss
I
anything?
do retreats too, transformational retreats. Yeah, we're going to
Mm,
Sedona. I'm already sold out, but we're heading to Sedona in January. And we do things like Tulum in Costa Rica. So just a full immersion, bringing everybody together for between 5 and 7 days to really connect and unveil and become.
that sounds wonderful. I mean, everything you do, it's such a beautiful invitation.
Oh,
Yeah, gosh, if I would take everything, all the invitations I get here, I wouldn't be here anymore doing the podcast for sure. So, but amazing. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for saying yes to life to this extent.
thank you so much.
And I want to mention your website, jksyoga.com. That'll be clickable, so it's easy. You don't have to take
Awesome.
my word for it. And anything else? Is there anything else you left unsaid, Jennifer, for today's conversation?
I'm so grateful the time with you and what you do. And I just want to offer your listeners to take the time to lean in to this journey of themselves and to take that
Mm,
invitation to discover them. They are worthy. We are all worthy. We are here to love and connect. And my hope and my prayer is that anyone listening feels that and is excited about taking this quest for themselves.
yes. So thank you for being one more beautiful guide.
Mhm.
Yeah, to I would say enlightenment, but it's really that to know what we are.
Yeah,
Really, that's what we are here
no.
for, in my view.
Yes.
So thank you again. And gosh, I would talk to you forever. So no more questions. I have all these questions here, but I'll leave them alone. Well, I would love to meet you again.
Yeah.
Thank you again for your presence, and we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again.
Thank you.
Bye for now.